Hello, everybody. Here with me today is Van Sturgeon. He's originally from Chicago, but now splits his time between Toronto and Miami Beach. Van is a successful entrepreneur, real estate investor, owns a number of successful businesses in real estate, land developer, home builder, owns companies in construction, renovation, and manages over 1,000 units in Michigan, New Brunswick, and Florida. And on top of all that, he has written books on home renovations, been published in a variety of media outlets, and over the last 30 years, Van has learned the secrets and systems needed to carry out successful house renovation. His mission, and what we're going to be talking about today, is to help new real estate investors overcome their fears of house renovations and become more successful in their investments. So, Van, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you, Michael, for inviting me and being on your show. I've listened to you and I appreciate your viewpoints. And so I'm looking forward to a great conversation with you.
Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, let's start from the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. So, walk me through your early days back in Chicago. How'd you get started in real estate? What led to your success?
Well, it's an interesting story in that my parents immigrated to America. My father was a U.S. citizen. My mother immigrated to Canada. My father actually served in the armed forces, the military during the 60s. And my mom was in Toronto. And eventually they got together and they made a decision to live in Chicago. And we lived in an apartment building. My father was an architect. My mom did odds and ends and looked after my brother and I. And the whole purpose, they were just worked really hard and tried to put their couple of dollars together. And they wanted to eventually to go out and buy a home. And I don't know how my father found out that the building that we were living in actually was up for sale. And so he put together all the money that he could, borrowed, and did whatever he had to do to put a down payment, and he took over. We bought the property, and this was in the late 70s. And I'm kind of dating myself, and I think you're in the same kind of generation, Michael. If you recall those days in the late 70s, early 80s, they weren't very good times. And at that time is when we took over, or my parents took over ownership of this building, and things weren't all that great during that period of time. High unemployment, interest rates were at 18%. Unemployment rate was 10-12%. It was just a miserable time. It was also during that Iran hostage situation. I remember waiting in line for gas. So it was a horrific time. And in the neighborhood that we lived in, you can see how it was deteriorating quickly. Because of the economy and because things were really tough. In my neighborhood, it was lined with buildings that were torched, like buildings that were put up. They were just destroyed because property owners couldn't maintain them. Tenants had left; they weren't paying, and as a result, the only resort that a lot of property owners had at the time was to set fire to the buildings and collect insurance money. It was a really bad time. So in this midst, we were forced to, as a family, you couldn't hire a painter, you couldn't hire a plumber. We had to do all the work ourselves. And so as a family, we bound together and we trudged on, and we suffered vacancies like everybody else. I think that there was times when over half the building was empty. And so we did everything we could. So that was the whole genesis of this journey of mine, is that I came from a background of having to do everything myself. So I learned everything that there is to know about renovation, whether it's painting, plastering, working on a roof, windows, you name it, I've done it. And so as we went through the 80s, things progressively got better. And then I went off to university, and that's where I got experience to Canada, in that I applied to and got accepted to University of Toronto. That's where I went to school, and graduated. Applied to law school. Could have continued on with law school, but I was interested in enthralled with real estate, and so I had a really difficult conversation with my parents, because every parent wants their son or daughter to be either a doctor or a lawyer, and I had my chances and I didn't follow through But I explained to them what I wanted, and begrudgingly, they let me do what I wanted to do, and they supported me. And so I moved off and became a general contractor. I worked on a variety of different projects in the early days, from renovations on homes, also did commercial buildings, and built up a company, built up a following. And as I continued on in that process, I became more and more engaged with the real estate investor crowd who had homes on an ongoing basis that they were looking to renovate. Either they would flip them, or they would actually hold on to them and rent them out. And so with that relationship, I started to get an insight as to what they were doing. And I started to do the same thing on my own in the late 90s. I started acquiring properties. I would renovate them myself and then move on and sell them. Some of them I held on to as rental properties. And so that's how the business evolved. And I got to a point where, because I'm a micromanager, and I have this mindset, or used to have this mindset, that I'm the only one that can do things right, that I would actually look after the whole renovation myself, physically looking after, physically hiring, physically doing the work in many cases also. And that started over a period of time, that became more and more involved. And I get to the point where I was frustrated and I couldn't take it anymore. It came to a breast one night when I was sleeping at an actual job site. I was on a house that I had a very tight timeline, and I needed to get it renovated. And I slept at the actual job site, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night, staring at this freshly painted ceiling, and thinking, worried about the contractor that didn't show up when he was supposed to, and the contractor that I was asking me for money, even though the contract said I didn't have to pay him money. He needed money because he had to pay his employees. I was worried about a kitchen manufacturer that didn't show up. He was supposed to produce products at a particular time and didn't. And all this came crashing down on me, and I couldn't take it anymore. And so I really had to take a couple of steps back at that time and sort of reassess what I'm doing and reevaluate. And there's been individuals that came at particular stages of my life that helped in the evolution of myself as a real estate investor. And so that was in particular situation that occurred with me at that time, when somebody stepped in and helped me with digesting what I was doing and how to scale up, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, so it sounds like one of the first benefits you had was the benefit of not having much when you were first starting. So you had it sounds like a weird benefit, but the benefit of being forced to learn. You had to learn to paint. You had to learn to swing a hammer, because your family couldn't just afford to hire somebody or throw money at it. And then you said, so towards that turning point, you had some coaches and mentors along the way.
I began to frequent that crowd, and I got to see individuals that were doing really well and were scaling, and I wanted to learn what they were doing, and they seemed to lead happy lives, and I wasn't. And so I approached one of them, and he took me under his wing. I paid him to mentor me, but it was the best investment I'd ever made, because he was able to show me the roadmap to how to success, to how to scale up. And if it wasn't for that, I would have probably ended up figuring it out, but it would have taken me a lot longer in the process. And in that process, made wrong decisions here and there, which would have cost me money. Like that. That's the issue with when you start in real estate investing, or when you're doing a home renovation, is that a wrong mistake in the choice of contractors or in the type of renovation that you're doing, and it can really cost you a lot of money, thousands of dollars. We all have heard the horror stories of contractors that come and go and steal and don't do the proper work properly. So that's where the coaching played a huge role in my life, and I've continued to even to this day pay for coaching. I believe in mentorship. I believe that if there is somewhere that you want to get to, the easiest and most efficient way to get you from point A to point B is to actually grab somebody and have them hold you hand and take you through that process. And then in that process, you learn and you're educated by it. They're there to mentor you. They're there to coach you. They're there also to inspire you. There's moments, I remember there's moments that I didn't trust or believe what my mentors or coaches told me, but I let go of that mindset and I indulged and I at the end of the day realized, yeah, they were right and I was wrong. Mm-hmm. And so it's I strongly encourage anybody who's interested in getting somewhere that they engage in that, because it's like picking up a guitar. It's anything that we do, or learning how to drive a car. You can pick up a guitar and without any instruction or anything, you can try to learn it. And I guess over a period of time you could. But the next step would be to go on to YouTube or go grab a book and you start reading it, and then we'll help you in the process. But the best is to actually have a teacher right in front of you, engage you as you're strumming that guitar and you're figuring out and they're helping you know you should hold the guitar this way, that way. And I'm speaking from practical experience because I wanted to learn how to play the guitar, and I'm still not there yet, but I can understand and see the benefits of actually having somebody instruct me versus trying to wing it and learn it on my own.
Well, especially you're talking about home renovations where a lesson can cost tens of thousands of dollars, and a coach probably costs quite a bit less than learning it yourself. It's good to learn from mistakes. It's better to learn from other people's mistakes. So how much have you spent on coaching and mentorship?
You know what? I be honest with you. I have always had friends, family, neighbors come to me, whether it's something small as, oh, I'm going to replace my deck in my house. Can you help me? To people who want to do full home renovations. I actually had a friend of mine come to me 2 days ago who's looking to build a home and wanted some help. So I've always been doing this over the last 30 years. I've been doing this, but it really came to abreast was over this pandemic when I'm sort of in a semi-retirement stage of my life. I have these businesses that I've already got them on cruise control, and I've got great people that are looking after them. So I'm sort of in a semi-retirement stage, and I've sort of lost the zest kind of for life in that I'm looking for something more. I'm sort of at that, maybe a little bit over about mid-age crisis kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to figure it out. They're trying to do something different, trying to recapture that energy, vitality. And this pandemic hasn't helped things as everybody's suffering. But during it, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who says, hey, I got this house that the wife and I want to renovate. There's a bunch of things we want to do. Can you give us a hand? And so that's where this whole journey started. And that I engaged it. I got together with them, sat them down. I walked them through the process. We crystallized a plan. We initiated the plan. We got the contractors, and it was a great process. It was a wonderful process for them in that they learned something. But it also, at the end of the day, when you accomplish something like that, aside from saving the money, they saved a lot of money. But it was the accomplishment of doing it themselves. Yes, I assisted, I held their hand, and I directed them. But at the end of the day, they did it themselves. They didn't hire a general contractor. They managed the process themselves. And so engaging them and giving them my experience is really, I was energized by it. I was passionate. I love it. I enjoyed the real estate. I love it. This is what I know, and I'm really good at it. And so engaging them really brought out that this is something that I want to do, and helping people. And the next, after that experience, which was great, I came across a friend of mine who's a fellow real estate investor, but also a real estate coach. And so I started talking to him. I told him about my experience, and he's like, yeah, this is one of the reasons why he's doing it, because it energizes him and he helps people out. It makes them feel good. And he goes, there's a lot of fear out there in people, in new real estate investors coming into the real estate investment world. There's a huge fear and apprehension about buying that first property and renovating it. And often they'll just go to a general contractor, and general contractors cost money. And speaking like one, because I'm a general contractor, I know the business intimately. And I know as a general contractor, if you, Michael, came to me and said, hey, I want you to renovate my house, I'm going to work into a profit margin of 30 to 50%, depending on the size of the work. that's the kind of profit margin I'm working in. So if it's a $50,000 renovation, for an example, my profit margin would be at least 15,000 to manage that for 2, 3, 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the nature of the beast. And so if you can act as that general contractor and go and plan and manage the whole process out yourself, you can save that money. And along the way, even if you were to make a mistake, you have that cushion of all that money that you saved from not using a general contractor. And there's a lot of other things that I can go into, like the benefits of acting as your own general contractor, managing your own home renovation. One of the critical components of being a successful real estate investor is being able to walk into any property and being able to figure out and diagnose what the issues are and being able to put a dollar value on it. Because part of real estate being successful in real estate is you need to be able to value renovations, value property. So walking into a property that is up for sale, you need to be able to quickly diagnose what it is that it needs, how much it's going to cost, and then determine whether there's value in purchasing it or not, right? So if you don't have that fundamental need as a real estate investor, you're going to have a difficult time until you get that figured out. There are property inspectors out there that you can hire. You can pay $300, $500 every time you look at a home. But there are situations as a real estate investor that you got to jump on a deal. And you got to go in there and you got to look at it and you got to make an assessment and you got to put an offer in. And you can't wait for an inspector to come and look at the property. You got to move. You got to be proactive. So again, it's one of the fundamental things that you need in your toolbox to move forward as a successful real estate investor is to be able to look after and manage your own home renovations.
Okay. So I can definitely see the value of doing that. Although it sounds like a bit of a reach for someone who's especially just starting out to, if they're listening to this and being like, oh yeah, sure, I'll just learn how to appraise about home on the fly and manage my own team so how would you help someone overcome that fear and what are kind of the biggest challenges someone has getting into this, and how would you help them get through that?
I think that first of all, that folks need to. One of the biggest problems I find new real estate investors who decide that they're going to manage their own renovation, and I see it all the time, and everybody sees the project as a driving along home, and they see a project that started and it just keeps going and going and never comes to. It takes too long. You wonder why is that garbage bin still sitting out in the front of the house for 6 months, 8 months? A good renovation in a home you should be able to accomplish that in 2-3 months. And so the biggest thing I find is that folks don't start off with a goal. Like they're not clear and defined in what it is that they're looking to accomplish. So I encourage everybody to, before they start, is to actually put a goal and write that goal down and use that goal as a filter as for whatever steps that you're going to take in the eventual renovation of that property. So if my goal is to renovate my home, I'm going to write out, okay, I'm going to renovate my home because I want this, this, this. And you got to write it down and you got to see it. You got to appreciate that. If you are renovating a home to flip, if you're renovating a home to rent out, these are goals that you've got to put down. And you got to also write down what the value is that you're deriving out of the renovation. Meaning, if I'm looking to flip a home, I want to flip 123 Main Street because I'm looking to make $50,000. If that is your goal, you need to write that down. And so then off of that goal, you reverse engineer it back, where you say, okay, if that's the case, if I'm looking to make $50,000 on this flip, what are the things that I need to do in this particular home? A lot of stuff is not being planned out properly, Michael, ahead of time before you engage contractors. You need to go do your research. You need to go out in the marketplace and look at what's going on. If I'm looking to make X amount of dollars on this particular property, what is that guy down the street, down the block, down the road selling their home for? And talking to real estate agents, talking to real estate brokers, talking to whoever that is in that area to get a sense of what they're doing so that you can implement that. And then off of that, then you work backwards in planning out the actual renovation. Often I find, like I said, so many times, because I act as a general contractor. I have people come to me to renovate. So, oh, I'm looking to renovate the home, and it's very generic stuff. I'm looking to renovate the home, and I need a new kitchen, new bathroom. How much is it going to cost? I don't know how to answer that, because there's toilets that you can buy for $100. You can buy them for $1,000. There's kitchens you can buy for $5,000, $15,000. And so I encourage people to start with a goal. And then once they have a goal and they've done their research, then they move on to a needs and wants list. And what that is, needs are things that you need. The home, for example, if your home has got a roof and it's got a leak in it, that's a need. You need to repair it. But if you want to replace some shaggy red carpet from the 1970s, that's really not a need. That's a want, because unless there's a trip hazard, you can get by with continuing to walk and live on that red carpet. So you need to create a list that separates needs, what really you need to get to your goal, and wants. What are some things that, if the budget allows for it, then you apply that. You use that budget money to do that. And also, you got to establish a budget. And that's one of the things there in between your goal and putting a needs and wants list together is your budget. You got to figure out how much money you have. There's a lot of resources that are out there in the marketplace. And the government, actually, depending on your municipality, there are resources out there, financial, that will let you borrow money at very, very low interest rates. There's also cash, obviously, that you put aside that you would use toward a renovation. There's lines of credit as well. But these are things you got to figure out what the dollar amount is, because we can have goals that are, to accomplish, to be able to get to the moon, the stars, and the sky. But ultimately, it's finding the dollars to be able to do the renovation also. So you need to use those things to get to the point where you've got a list, you know what you want, and then you move on to creating an actual document. It's called a scope of work, and that is that's important, because in that document you sort of crystallize everything that you've accumulated, information that you've processed into that actual document. And is that document that you have, I want the kitchen renovated, because I want the sink replaced, I want the refrigerator replaced, and this is the specification of the refrigerator and the stove, and all those types of details need to be put in that document before I make one phone call to a contractor. And that's where I find many new real estate investors don't do their due diligence, don't do all that information, get all that data stuff together before they take that step forward into a renovation. It makes sense?
Yeah. So they kind of just launch into it like, hey, we're going to need a kitchen. Let's call a kitchen guy, and then we'll figure out what else this house is going to need. And
that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. I get people that will come to us. It's on the residential side is quite different than the commercial side. On the commercial side, you don't have that. Everything is written. Everything is decided upon. And you, as a general contractor like myself, I do quotes every single day. As a general contractor, as a commercial job, you know exactly how many to the linear feet, square feet, everything is detailed, and you got to figure out a lump sum price if this is what it'll cost. On the residential side, unfortunately, there's a lack of that detail, and it causes confusion, and oftentimes it's to the benefit of the general contractor. I'm a general contractor. The more ambiguity there is, the more opportunity for me to be able to take advantage of you, ultimately. So that's
and so how do you? So of course you want to get that plan ahead. Now, is that something that you help people with? You talk about how you coach and you support people. That's the kind of thing that someone can call Van and be like, Van, I want to do this and this, but what am I missing? What steps do I need? Is that a place where you can help out?
Absolutely. That's where I would love to get involved in that process and grab somebody by the hand and walk them through the whole process. When I'm engaging people, I'm engaging them on a one-on-one basis, and I love it. I enjoy it. I'm passionate about it. The only issue is that I only have so much time on my hands. I love to help everybody, but I also have an ongoing business and commitments. So I have only certain amount of time that I can share with people, but I enjoy the process, and I'm out there to be able to. I want to help people. I enjoy it. So,
yeah. What's great about the place and business you're in is that whatever you charge the coach will probably save a multiplier of that on not having to do the job twice or hiring the right contractors or anything like that.
Absolutely. I guarantee that my involvement will definitely will not only save them the money, the money that they're going to give me to look at, to help them walk them through that process.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get that back and then some in terms of the savings of the actual whole renovation.
Yeah.
And then there's the two most important is that, number one, there's a skill set that they learn when they engage in a successful renovation that they will be able to take and use for the rest of their real estate investment career. So when they purchase another property and they move on and they acquire more and more properties and they scale and they create a portfolio, it's something that they will be able to use. But the number one thing that my involvement is that typically my involvement is with new people that are new real estate investors. So their biggest problem is fear. Is the mindset and the fear of taking on a home renovation. It's pretty daunting. Like if you think about it, Michael, in order for us to raise the value of a property, you actually it's really weird in that you buy the property, you have to decrease the value of the property in order to increase it. So what does that mean? I have to buy the property, and I have to rip out the kitchen, rip out the washroom, replace the windows maybe. All these certain things that you have to do to the home, you're demolishing and then you're renovating and you're increasing the value. And so that whole process is pretty daunting for a first timer. And there's a lot of fear, and it's understandable. Like typically these types of homes are the single largest investments that people will ever make in their lives. Mm-hmm. It's not only just in the financial terms, but it's also the time and memories that people create in their homes. This is where their families are. This home is something special. Everybody needs a home. And so when you take a hammer to a wall or you knock down a washroom, that's pretty, there's a lot of fear there. And I get it. So my involvement is to really grab people by the hands and help them through that process, change the mindset, and put them in a proper place so that they succeed. Definitely they will succeed with my involvement. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they have a skill set that they can carry forward for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm. So if someone's watching and they're not able to hire you for whatever reason, what should they be looking for in a good contractor? How can you tell the good ones who are going to take care of you from the bad ones who are going to take you?
I always say that we real estate investors, home renovators, whatever, we're always looking for that unicorn contractor. And what that means is, it's a contractor that doesn't exist. It's a contractor that shows up on time, a contractor that does great quality work, and a contractor's peanuts that cost peanuts, right? All those three things is what we're looking for in an ideal contractor. And unfortunately, we never find that person. You might find them every once in a while for a little bit of a project here and there, but they quickly get gobbled up and quickly they change because acting as a contractor myself, I know that it's a tough racket that we're in that we don't have a regular job. We don't have a 9-to-5 job. We're always on the hustle. As contractors, period, plumbers, electricians, painters, we're all out there on the hustle trying to get more work because there's ebbs and flows in the season. In the wintertime, like we're up here in the north right now, there's not a lot going on in December, January, February because it's winter. People they're paying their credit card bills for Christmas and all that kind of stuff, but it's just the weather's cold. Things are kind of different back, in Florida and those types of places because it's warmer weather and as you have more consistency. But even then, you have holidays, there's ebbs and flows. And so as a contractor, you have peak seasons where you have so much work, you don't know how to handle it. And then there's times where you don't have any work and now you're scrounging around trying to find something because you have overhead. And so one of my suggestions is never to look for that perfect contractor because you're never going to find them. What you need to do is understand and appreciate what contractors are driven by and how you filter out what the contractors that you need to put in your renovation is different depending on the actual renovation itself. So for example, if I'm looking to renovate my home versus I'm looking to renovate a rental property versus I'm looking to flip a home, each of those three scenarios require a different type of contractor. For my home, I would imagine for most people, it would be, I want the best quality. Second would be, I want them to show up when they're supposed to show up. And then money, the amount of money that they're going to charge me, although important, is not that important versus these two other variables, correct?
Yeah, you're gonna be living with it a long time, so.
And if you're flipping a home, it might be the other way around. It might be, I'm willing to put up with the nonsense of a contractor, meaning showing up, not showing up. I'm willing to put up with not so much, but the quality is not so good, but the price, I have to get it at a particular price in order to meet my budget. So this is again one of the things that I stress to people when they ask me about how to identify contractors. First, you got to know what it is that you're looking to renovate and why you're using this particular contractor, the type of contractor. And then there's a process of filtering out the contractor you should be using. So to answer your question more directly, I suppose, is how do you find a contractor? Well, you got to find a contractor, first of all, by you tender out your project. You have a scope of work, and each of these contractors specifically will price out apples with apples so you can compare. That's one of the difficult things I find all the time, is that plans sort of change, or contractors on purpose will let out things and include things in their quote, and then you can't compare apples with apples. So number one thing is make sure you're comparing apples with apples from one contractor to another. Once you've done that, and depending on what you're looking for in terms of the work of renovation you're looking to do, then you identify the 2 to 3 contractors that you feel that are the ones that are best suited for your renovation. Then you got to do your due diligence on them. A lot of time, it takes time, and people don't want to waste time. They want to just go. And this is what gets them into problems. You got to do your due diligence. You got to look at the references a contractor's giving you. You got to go visit the site. You got to engage in conversation with maybe that person, the principal who had hired this contractor. See what happened. Make a phone call. Then it'd be nice if the contractor that you might be using, actually going to their job site, seeing the condition of the job site, seeing the quality of workmanship. Talk is easy. We can all talk, but actually seeing physically the crew, how they're dressed, how they carry on, how the job sites, how they're preparing things is important. And then we all have it, but there's a gut sense that we all get. When you're dealing with somebody, we got in the back of our minds, you'll get the sense of who is that we want to work with and who we don't. Who's a scammer? Who's, you know what I mean? And so not always is your intuition accurate. I make mistakes all the time, like everybody else. But you got to follow those things. And there's other things you can also look into as well. I strongly encourage references from property managers, from other real estate investors, from real estate agents, salespeople. There's a whole community of people, friends, family, that have used contractors that you need to tap into. So when people say, "Oh, I can't find a contractor," no, you can find a contractor. You're just not working hard enough. You're not out there working hard enough to do your research.
Well, I think a lot of people, they're so used to, you buy a car, you go to a dealership, you find a car, you haggle a little bit for 2%, and then you sign it and you go. And I think unless they're in business, they're not used to. So if they're either a private homeowner or a small scale investor, new investor, they're not used to that like due diligence concept of, hey, I want to go. Like, you'd never say to your car salesman, I want to watch you do another deal. To make sure you're fair. Like, they'd be like, what the heck are you talking about? Get out of here. Right. But when you're talking about hiring someone for a $10, $15, $40, $50,000 job, it does make sense to say, I want to see how you do your business before you rip apart my house. I want to see what you're doing in someone else's house. I think a lot of people, may hear this for the first time, be like, oh, it never would have occurred to me to ask to see their job site, to ask to visit another place they're working. That wouldn't seem appropriate. But you're saying that's something that's appropriate and reasonable.
Absolutely. And any contractor who says that they don't want to give you a list of references or a list of job sites, run away from them. Because as a contractor, if I'm an electrician, a plumber, a painter, whatever, like, there's a certain level of pride in workmanship that I generate, right? You need to have.
Yeah, well, I want you to see it. Look, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if that guy is not giving you, or girl is not giving you a list of references of past accomplishments, there's something wrong there. And I would run away from that individual. It's not. We're all driven by dollars. We all want to race to the cheapest, to the always thinking that we're going to find the nugget, that nugget. Mm-hmm. And I've gone through it. I've renovated thousands of properties over the last 30 years, and so speaking from experience, it's fool's gold. Don't chase after that nugget. Try to do your homework, do your research. And it's not always driven based on dollars. You have to you figure out what it is that you're looking to accomplish, and then you'll find the right contractors for that particular job. And it's not driven by money. It's driven by other things. Mm-hmm. That makes
So I imagine that the selling proposition of a general contractor is you're going to pay us a chunk of money, but don't worry, we're going to take care of everything. And so that's why it's worth it to do that. Right. But you're suggesting people should be managing their own renovations. And of course, their response might be, well, isn't that the general contractor's job? They got the experience, whatnot. What is the benefit of, besides saving the money, what is the benefit of doing it themselves? And how would they overcome their fears and kind of manage their own, their own renovations?
Typically, like in particular real estate investors, you're on a timeline to renovate a property, in that you probably have borrowed money from a bank, from a hard money lender. And so every month that goes by can literally cost you thousands of dollars for that delay. Mm-hmm. And so new real estate investors, even old ones, will elect to go the route of hiring a general contractor, because they're going to give them three things. A general contractor, like myself, will give you cost certainty, in that I'm going to say, for all this work, I'm going to charge you X amount of dollars. Mm-hmm. There's a certain level of quality that I'm going to provide and you can see that in previous work. And then there is the timeline that I'm going to say that by X so-and-so date, I will have finished your project. Unfortunately, as a general contractor, and being very honest, in particular in residential, each of those three things rarely happen. Price, especially with new real estate investors and homeowners, just on the residential side, price is never finite. It's never finalized. It's never final. Even though I might say that this renovation is going to cost $50,000, I know that inexperienced who have not planned out everything properly, is going to blow that budget. I know that. I can just, in my engagement of a conversation with somebody, I know that these people, based on how much information they've gathered, the research that they've done, I know that they're going to blow their budget. Second of all, as a general contractor, I am going to provide a level of quality. Yes, I can provide that level of quality, but what happens with general contractors is that we are basing our work on other contractors. So I'm the general, and I hired the electrician, the plumber. No general contractor has an electrician, plumber, painter dedicated to that profession. We all sub that out. And so my reflection of quality is directly related to who I get on that particular job site, right? And so quality can fluctuate. I try to control it, but I also am dealing with human beings as a general contractor. Some people have good days, bad days. So quality can suffer. So I might say in that contract, I'm going to produce a certain level of quality, which is subjective. What does that mean? I don't know. But I can provide you with some level of quality. But in actuality, I don't know myself, because it depends on the trade that I have, the electrician, the plumber that I have to be able to grab to finish a job site. And in particular, especially, it's extraordinarily difficult in peak times for me to be able to control quality, because the good guys that I perhaps want, they're busy. They tied up here, they're tied up there. And if I have a tight deadline that I have to meet, it'd be difficult for me to reach it, because I'm struggling to find contractors to do the job. You got to consider that a home can be broken up into 25 major components. Mm-hmm. And so all these components put together, it requires a contractor for each one. And so that is the difficult part in my process as a general contractor. And the last piece of business is time. If you can't get your act together as the investor, the homeowner, to give me direction on certain things that I need, I will blow the timeline out. Like, instead of getting it done to a particular day, I know how to be able to extend it, because you haven't done your you haven't done your homework. You haven't done what you need to do
Mhm.
to get the renovation done. If that makes sense, right?
Mhm.
So this whole notion that I'm just going to hand it over to a general contract because they're going to guarantee me this and this and this is not true. It's a fallacy. I'm telling you as on behalf as a general contractor that it doesn't work like that. It all is ultimately a function of you and how you get your acted in gear and get your planning in place.
Mhm.
And me as a general contractor, if I have all those, yeah, I should be able to produce it. But if you can get all those things, the background stuff done, all the planning and details already put together, then why do you need a general contractor?
Okay. So in other words, in order to get the value of a general contractor, you'd need to do their job for them anyway to some degree. And by the time you've done everything you need to really have a guarantee of sure price, sure time, sure quality, you might as well just be hiring the contractors yourself.
Yeah, because ultimately, how does a general contractor, how can a general contractor like myself crawl into your brain to figure out the type of style kitchen cabinets you want, the color tile you want, what to renovate, what not to renovate? I can't do that.
Mhm.
I need that information from you. And so me as a general contractor, typically I'll get a phone call, we want to renovate my home. Okay, I go there and I am trying to draw things out of you to be able to put a proposal together. But the next contractor has got to do the same thing. And the next contractor, general contractor comes, has got to do the same thing. So you have a mishmash of what my quote types of, in renovations. And that's why you'll see dumpsters sitting in a driveway for 6 months instead of, 2-3 months.
So, and then when you coach people, you help them to put all this thing together, figure out their plan, do all this before instead of the general contractor, they can manage themselves. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's the nutshell is that we spend quite a bit of time in planning it out, identifying what your goals are, putting a scope of work together, and I work with you in terms of understanding what it is you're looking to accomplish. And then there's a whole section there of your interactions with not general contractors, but with contractors. Mm-hmm. How do you interact with electricians, a plumber? What is it you should be looking for? How you should be paying them? All those types of things are really incredibly important, and are needed for a successful renovation that I help people out with.
Okay, so in some way, because it sounds like it's almost sort of adversarial quality working with a general contractor traditionally, in that, yeah, they're working with you to do your project, but you're trying to give them as little money as possible. They're trying to take as much money as possible. You're trying to get as fast as possible. They're trying to do it as slow as possible. And so with what you do, it's taking the general absolutely knowledge, but sitting on the same side of the table with your coaching clients.
That's absolutely. I act as a de facto general contractor, sort of sitting in the periphery.
Mm-hmm.
People will come to me, and I will guide them through the process, hold them by the hand. But they are acting as their own general contractor, but me as sort of in the background, sort of pushing and prodding them along the process along the way. And I love the process because it fulfills a need that I have, because I have this experience and I'm passionate about what I do. And then also at the same time, these people are able to learn and develop a skill set, and they save a lot of money at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like the difference between the fee-for-service financial advisor versus the commission-based financial advisor. The fee-for-service one, you're paying them to give their best advice. They have no incentive other than giving you the best advice and making you a satisfied client. Whereas if it's commission-based, maybe this annuity is the right thing for you, maybe it's not, but that's what they get paid on. So they at least have an internal conflict. Whereas you same thing. I assume people pay you a set fee for your advice and your coaching. But then your entire incentive is to create a satisfied coaching client. And whoever, if the plumber they want to bring in isn't the right choice and will make them unhappy, it is to your incentive to make sure they don't get that guy. And guess what's going to make them happier?
Right. But I as I mentioned earlier, I'm doing this because I enjoy it. I have a certain amount of time in my life and schedule that will be able to engage people and walk them through and coach them through a renovation. I enjoy that, and that's why I'm doing it. But I want to attract people that are serious and they're committed
Mhm.
in the process. And when I see success, I enjoy the process, and it fills my soul. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm looking to. I'm looking to identify people that are willing to go down that trek with me, and it'll be good. It'll be great. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
It's tremendous what people are able to accomplish over a short couple of months period of time with my involvement, and
Mhm.
it's all good stuff. It's all good
Yeah.
stuff.
And it sounds like, whatever you charge, that money comes back many times over,
Yeah.
in lack of headaches, lack of expense for one thing, but lack of headaches, lack of delays, lack of avoiding going down the wrong path, having to rip that kitchen back out that you just put in because it doesn't fit or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah, absolutely. There's multiple series of steps that you need to engage in from a start to finish when you're doing a
Mhm.
full scale house renovation. And so one slip up along the way can be devastating. It costs you thousands and thousands of dollars to fix that mistake. And so again, I'm there to sort of navigate you through those troubled waters to get
Mhm.
you to the promised land, where not only are you saving a lot of money, but you're also at the same time you learn the skill set. Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, that sounds like a huge value. I've never met anyone who does quite that kind of renovation coaching that you talk about, but I can see a huge value for that, and I can see a lot of comfort in knowing like this guy's on my side. Straight, I'm paying him to be on my side, and not having to worry about, okay, what else is going on in his head when he's telling me to do this, and how much do I need to second guess him and whatnot. And that could be really valuable. And so you're able to help people all across the U.S. and Canada. Is it just in Toronto where
Oh
are you able to
no,
help people?
I've helped out people all across North America. It's amazing what we can accomplish with today's the technology. Look at what we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't even know that this kind of stuff existed until this pandemic started. I'm not the most technical kind of guy. I'm a hammer. I got a hammer and a screwdriver in my hand. But so I have no issues to helping people out all across North America. And that's what I've been doing, and I really encourage people to go to my website where there's a bunch of resources there. There's articles, there's things that I've written, there's videos, and there's also free training that I'm providing as well.
Right.
So if you go onto the website there, you log in, sign up, and I give a breakdown of what it is that we've talked about in terms of how you plan out a renovation, how you execute a renovation, what the benefits are. So I encourage everybody to go and to sign up and just use my website as a resource. There's a lot of great content there.
And then, of course, if they need more, I assume they can contact you through the website and
Absolutely.
get you involved and more hands-on, so to speak.
Absolutely. There's again, I'm very limited in the amount of space and a commitment that I can make to people.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only limited amounts. So there's an actual so I encourage you to go through free training, get more of an understanding. But there's also a place where you can opt in. There's a series of questions that you'll have to answer with regards to where you are, and then that will prompt you to schedule a phone call with me, and then we'll talk and see if there's something that can be accomplished.
Well, great, yeah, and that's really smart, both for you and for the people trying to help, to have all that free content there, so that someone who just they need to learn one thing, here it is, great, that Van guy knows his stuff, thanks Van, I'm out. But then if they need more, that's when presumably when they could retain you and buy your time, so to speak, because of course your time is limited and your experience is built over many decades, so obviously very valuable.
Absolutely, and I give out a lot of content because I want to truly help people, and then find that on my website. But also at the same time, coaching like one-on-one, I want people to put skin in the game, because without skin in the game, there is no commitment, and we all fall victim to that. If we get something for free, we sort of toss it off to the side. But if you make a financial commitment to it, you're going to follow through, and that's what I'm looking for in people. I'm not doing this for money. I'm pretty well off. I'm doing this for the sake of, I want people to. I know what it means to have fear in renovations, and so what I'm going to do is help people overcome it, and I'm pretty confident I can do that.
I love it. All right. So we're coming to the end of our time. Do you have any final remarks you would like to share with our audience?
I really appreciate the time we've had, and thank you very much for having me on your show. I encourage everybody to go to vansturgeon.com and to learn more about me. And like I said, appreciate the opportunity to speak.
All right. Well, yeah, it's been great talking to you and great to learn about what you do. So thank you so much for being on. And yeah, everyone should go to vansturgeon.com. Right here is the link there. And people should let Van take away their fear in the construction process. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.